about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So you keep hearing these polls that more young Americans believe that political violence is acceptable. Acceptable. 40%. All right? There is a percentage that says, no, you never do that. No way, Jose, no. But the fact that we have, right, 2 in 5 Americans saying, look, it's fine. This is what we do in America. That's frightening. So here's a little background on some of these polls. Okay, one is being reported by Harvard Crimson, where there was a poll that was done in the fall of 2025. And in that, 40% of young Americans believe that political violence was acceptable under certain circumstances. 28% condoned political violence when, quote, the government violates individual rights, while 11% said political violence is acceptable when somebody encourages violence. And the same share said it is justifiable when somebody promotes extremist beliefs. A 56% majority said political violence was unacceptable under any circumstances. But this poll was called the Youth Poll. It was conducted by the Harvard Public Opinion Project. It surveyed 2,000 young Americans. They do this twice per year. And I guess this happened right after the Charlie Kirk assassination. And you would think that individuals would be 100% saying, no, not in America. We don't do political violence. Only 56% said that was a no. So this is frightening. In fact, nearly 2/3 of respondents said Charlie Kirk's killing had not changed their willingness to speak with people who hold opposing beliefs. We should be able to talk. We should be able to have conversations. That's what makes America so great. But the fact that people would find there are justifiable means and reasons behind political violence is scary. And look at what some of their justifications were. If the government violates individual rights. Okay, so, you're thinking Nazi Germany. You're thinking the Iran regime, Revolutionary Guard. You're thinking that, right? That's not what they're thinking. They're thinking Trump. So let's, for example, what would be an example that they're saying under the Trump administration that violates individual rights? Well, I'm sure somebody was going to bring up the overturn of Roe v. Wade. Well, under Trump, the Roe v. Wade was overturned. So now women can't get abortions. Well, that's not true. The Roe v. Wade overturn actually said that the federal government has to stay out of it, that the federal government can't condone abortion, can't prohibit it. So the federal government is now dissected out. So if somebody looks at the Roe v. Wade overturn as violating individual rights, then that's on them. Whereas other people looking at the overturn said, okay, it's going back to the states. And now states have been through their referendums, expanding abortion care and coverage and things like that. And so, what you're arguing on but wait a second, you actually have more rights, right? Well, it's affecting our rights because he wants to secure the border. But somebody might say, but the securing of the border now ensures that you have access to formula, to hospital rooms, to jobs, to not an overcrowded classroom. So, people think, well, gosh, this is a no-brainer. You have somebody like Hitler coming in and not allowing you to be Jewish and not allowing you to be gay and not allowing you to be who you are, then yeah, we have every right to fight. But but that's not what's happening with this government. They also say political violence is acceptable when somebody encourages violence. Well, somebody encouraging violence, you don't have to follow and listen. I mean, I look at what Maxine Waters and Pelosi and everybody's saying. You got to fight. You got to. So you're saying if Nancy Pelosi tells you to do something, or Ocasio-Cortez, or Trump, you have to go up in arms? Really? And they say it's justifiable when somebody promotes extremist beliefs. Okay, so decades ago, when you heard the term extremist, you're thinking, jihad, you're thinking death to America views, things like that. Okay, but that's not what people in this day and age are calling an extremist view. They think you're extremist if you want to secure the border, if you want Iran to not have a nuclear weapon, if you want the hostages that were taken from Israel, the remaining people alive who were being tortured in Gaza, you wanting them back. People think then you're an extremist. People thought we were extremists when we said, wait a second, are we sure COVID didn't come from a lab? The bat soup theory doesn't sound right. They thought we were extremists. So where we are vulnerable is being accused of something that you're not. It's like the Salem witch trials. Well, you're a witch. You're like, but I'm not. I'm doing my thing. Leave me alone. Somebody could say you're extremist because you're LDS or you're Jewish. That's a problem. So you're having people build their case, but it's built on fallacies. It's built on it's weak. But that's what they're saying. So they're saying, well, I had to do this because, like this Thomas Cole, because he felt he had to take on pedophiles. Who are you talking about? Jeffrey Epstein? Or Trump? And Trump's like, I'm not a pedophile. I'm not a rapist. What's he talking about? But this is the misinformation. So people, who don't, I guess, have common sense or looking at, Trump is the most evil person ever. He rapes babies. He would, and they believe this BS. And so we saw what happened in 2020, where people were labeled they were losing their medical licenses. One doctor in Maine was forced to get psychiatric testing because she had put a tweet saying, why is the CDC looking at natural immunity? That's not extremists. That's mainstream medicine. And you, if you think you're not on the side of the extremists, you could be very, very easily switched to the other side at any time. Once you allow any of these, these extremists to come up with their, shall we say, justification, you might think, okay, well, they're just kind of now targeting, the GOP. It's not going to affect the rest of us. It will affect you. It'll always affect you. 1-877 Dr. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. So many of you heard this case about a Florida surgeon who removed somebody's liver instead of their spleen. And this is somebody who's board certified. Hey, is supposed to have all the credentials. How did this happen? But unfortunately, this was such a tragic case and a tragic story. So Dr. Thomas Shaknovsky from Tallahassee has been indicted after prosecutors say he botched the surgery of 70-year-old William Bryan of Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Now, apparently, the jury of the First Judicial Circuit, according to The Guardian, heard that the doctor of Defuniak Springs, which is about 120 miles west of Tallahassee, was scheduled to perform an operation called a laparoscopic splenectomy on a patient. Now, that is where we don't do an open cut. We do little small portals, and we are able to use instruments through those portals so we can remove tissue or address things. We could remove gallbladders that way. We don't necessarily have to have open surgeries. We could do laparoscopic, which causes less bleeding, less damage, less chance of infection. And laparoscopic surgery was fun. I loved doing it. It's amazing. However, if there, God forbid, is a complication, we immediately have to go to an open route where we do the basic, old-fashioned traditional incisions. So, unfortunately, what the prosecutors are saying is there was catastrophic blood loss and the patient's death on the operating table. Dr. Shaknovsky was, I believe, after he lost his license, working as a Lyft driver, and he was taken into custody, I think, while he was in the middle of lifting some customers. So what happened, which is pretty frightening, was the patient, Mr. Bryan, was a Navy veteran, married for 33 years, and his wife, Beverly. They were visiting the rental property in Okaloosa County in August 2024. He suddenly began experiencing left-sided flank pain. This is according to Zarzar Law. Medical malpractice attorneys represent the family. So while they're on vacation, he gets this really bad pain. So he gets admitted for further studies, and they found that there was an abnormality of the spleen. So he was like, okay, well, let me just go back home and I'll deal with it. But the doctors persuaded him, including this doctor, that he could experience serious complications if he left the hospital and he shouldn't be traveling. So while while the surgery was being done, from what we're being told, there might have also been an aneurysm, and that the aneurysm started to bleed. Once it obscured what they were able to see, they had to open him up, and then for some reason it moved to him thinking that the spleen was really, really enlarged, and then removing the liver instead. Now, coworkers allegedly expressed concern over Dr. Shaknovsky's abilities and believe that he did not have the skill level to safely perform the surgery. This is according to the health department and the New York Times. And so documents further stated that the staff in the OR knew splenectomies were complicated procedures that could quickly deteriorate, and the doctor began surgery before switching to an open procedure without documenting his reasoning. Now, we're also being told that the colon of the patient burst out of the abdominal cavity before Shaknovsky used a surgical stapling device. Then the patient began hemorrhaging. Then he went into cardiac arrest. Nurses, staff tried to suction the blood that was coming out. They tried to do transfusions. They tried to use cautery. And the surgeon continued to try to remove the organ. He removed the organ, which he thought was the spleen, but it was actually the liver. And for those of us who know anatomy, the liver is on the right side, usually, unless somebody has situs inversus and a complete switch of their organs. But the liver is usually on the right. You do have a left lobe. You do have a left lobe that creeps over to the left side near the spleen. But he told the family that this patient's spleen was 4 times the size as normal. It had to be removed. Well, he's talking about a liver. A liver is about 4 times the size of the spleen. So how did this happen? So they were kind of shocked that the wrong organ was removed, that the patient died. And you're looking at this going, this guy's board certified. Now, the widow has filed a civil lawsuit against Shaknovsky for unspecified damages, according to Law and Crime. And the attorney, wants to seek justice for this tragedy. Shaknovsky is scheduled to be arraigned in Walton County Circuit Court on May 19th. He has pleaded not guilty, faces up to 15 years behind bars if convicted. So where this is a very interesting story, it's tragic, but he's being, I guess, tried for manslaughter. All right, it's one thing to have malpractice, where you are performing a medical case, you get informed consent, you are doing it to the best of your abilities, something might go wrong, a family might decide to sue, feeling that you were negligent or you were, okay, there's malpractice. And from what this sounds, this is gross malpractice. But manslaughter, second degree, he's actually being charged with second degree manslaughter. Now, if his procedures should not have erupted like this and evolved into this, and he performed such extreme negligence, criminal attorneys may be able to get him on a manslaughter charge. Now, a lot of doctors are aware that we could be tried criminally if we are so grossly incompetent, because we're supposed to recuse ourselves. Right? If you can't do the job, you don't do it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen doctors go, well, I'll just do it. We'll keep working. And not in any doctor's defense, but when we were students, if we told our attending, I don't know how to do it, that was a one-way ticket to you get up here to the patient and you're going to do it now in front of me. Now, I get they had to train us. They had to teach us. But you don't have a lot of training in medical school where you say, I don't know how to do something. I'm going to step back, let somebody else go and do this, and I'm going to go grab lunch. There's not a lot of opportunities for that. And so I'm not sure exactly. I know he's board certified in surgery. I'm not exactly sure if this is something that he does, performing a splenectomy versus performing a liver removal. That's I'm really confused, and I'm dying to see the operative report. But what we're understanding is he also continued to mislabel the organ, calling the liver a spleen. And by the way, there's a different texture. There's a different look. I mean, you could tell the difference in the organ. I have felt so many livers. You know the difference. And so did this guy have, a brief, mental event where he didn't know what he was doing? Was he, I mean, it's not like you make more money removing the wrong organ. I mean, how to prevent against this? How do we as patients make sure that something like this doesn't happen? Well, it's a little scary, because the one thing that I hear from a lot of patients is when they ask the medical provider, look, can I wait? Most of them will say no, because if something happens to you and they said you could wait, they're in trouble. So many of them will offer to do the procedure then and there. There's also some things where you can't wait on. I've had patients where they were having full-blown appendicitis or a possible stroke, or they go, you know what, can I wait till my doctor opens on Monday? No, you cannot wait. This is serious. You've got to go to the emergency room. You got to get this addressed. And this left-sided pain, not sure what, splenic infarct. I'm not exactly sure what was causing the pain. Are we sure there wasn't an aneurysm? And this was the start of an aneurysm rupture. And that's why one report is saying that he had aneurysm that was rupturing at the time. I don't have all the details of the medical report. We're probably not going to get that for a while. But you as a patient, you do have options. It's just sometimes in an ER setting, you don't have a lot of opportunity to get a second opinion. And so the opinion you're getting either from the ER doc or the visiting surgeon or whoever's consulting is sometimes all you have. And then you are like, well, now what do I do? And when a doctor says it's probably not safe for you to travel, and I'm wondering if he was having an aneurysm rupture, I agree. You can't be traveling back to Alabama. No, you got to have that addressed immediately. So if that's the case, then they were correct about that. But if this was something where it could have been elective, they should have let him go back home. So your questions, what you have to ask the provider is, look, is this an emergency? Okay, what are the risks if I travel? What is the time frame when I need to get this addressed? And have them answer those questions. If you can and you feel like you need a second opinion, get a second opinion. That's why it's so important for you to have your own family doc and your own primary care provider, so that hopefully you could reach out to them and they could get a consult, and give an opinion. But this is just tragic. It should have never happened. And I don't know how this guy was practicing medicine. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this is pretty impressive. A Mayo Clinic developed artificial intelligence model was able to help specialists detect pancreatic cancer on routine abdominal CT scans up to 3 years before we would be normally able to diagnose it. This is huge. Pancreatic cancer is one of those cancers that scare the hell out of me, because the prognosis, the long-term prognosis, is very, very poor. Because by the time we find it and identify that your symptoms are pancreatic cancer, it's usually too far gone. So if we could figure out a way how we could pick it up early on, it's huge. So according to the Mayo Clinic, they say that this AI model was able to identify subtle signs of the disease before the tumors were visible. So, abdominal CTs are fantastic, but we have to, with the naked eye, be able to see a change in the pancreas. If an AI model is able to do that more microscopically, I guess, this could be huge. So the findings were published in Gut. It marks a milestone in Mayo Clinic's multi-year research effort to try to earlier detect one of the world's deadliest cancer. So the study validates this next generation AI model using data and workflows that mirror clinical practice, including the CT scans from multiple institutions. They used imaging systems, protocols, etc. And what they did is they used the AI model to look at 2,000 CAT scans, including scans from patients later diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, which makes really sense. They basically looked at people who ended up having CT scans for other reasons, ends up later getting pancreatic cancer. Let's look back before the pancreatic cancer was diagnosed and see if there was anything that the AI could pick up on. And so, and these were scans that were read as normal. The system was called the radiomics-based early detection model, identified 73% of those pre-diagnostic cancers at a median of about 16 months before diagnosis, which is double the detection rate of specialists reviewing the same scans. The advantage was even greater at earlier time points. In scans obtained more than 2 years before the diagnosis, the AI identified nearly 3 times as many earlier cancers that would go undetected. So, this can be huge. So they said the Red Mod measures hundreds of quantitative imaging features that describe tissue, texture, and structure, capturing faint biological changes as cancer begins to develop. The model is designed to analyze CT scans already obtained for other reasons, particularly in high-risk patients, such as those with new onset diabetes, and flag elevated risk before any visible mass appears. So a few things I want to talk about that. I remember I was teaching at a facility, and one of the doctors would be teaching the students that, diabetes isn't related to pancreatic cancer. It is. And now I'm not saying if you have diabetes, you're going to get pancreatic cancer. But if you are a newly developed diabetic, that suggests something happened to your pancreas. And it could be a virus that affected the pancreas. It could be an illness that affected the pancreas, like we saw with COVID. Or it could be that you're starting to grow a tumor on that pancreas. And now that's affecting the ability for you to make insulin. So when somebody has diabetes, I always like to keep an eye on the pancreas, because the pancreas is one of the main organs that's kind of at fault. So pancreatic cancer, I think this was it a couple years ago that Jerry Springer, we believe, had passed because of pancreatic cancer. And probably about 70,000 Americans are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer every year. What's the 5-year survival? Not good. 5%. They say at least 50,000 Americans die of pancreatic cancer every year, and the numbers are increasing. They say older individuals who are healthy can do as well as those who are younger when diagnosed with advanced stage of the disease, but still some sources cite that the median survival time is between 2 and 6 months if the cancer is diagnosed at a later stage. Most of the time, this cancer is diagnosed at a later stage. Who's at risk? Older individuals, male over female, but still females can get it as well. If you have diabetes, alcohol use, chronic pancreatitis, if you've had chronic inflammation of the pancreas, genetics, like BRCA gene, or if family history, if you are of African American descent, Ashkenazi Jewish descent, obese, high-fat diet, if you've had hepatitis B, H. pylori infection, BRCA1 or BRCA2 mutations. There's even been suggestion that artificial sweeteners, because they're linked to diabetes, and diabetes is a risk factor for pancreatic cancer. Right now, it's still controversial. We don't want to think that artificial sweeteners played a role, but people are concerned that when they know of somebody who had pancreatic cancer and they drank a lot of diet soda, the problem is a good part of our country drinks that, and as they're trying to get away from sugary soda. So it's really, really hard to dissect, and filter out a cause and effect. What are symptoms of pancreatic cancer? Sometimes you feel nothing, absolutely nothing. But sometimes you could start getting jaundice, where you have yellowing of the skin. You could get heartburn, back pain, abdominal pain, bloating, weight loss, loss of appetite, new onset diabetes, dark colored urine, light colored stool, fatigue, and pruritus, itchy skin. When somebody tells me that they're itchy and they're allergic to something, and I can't see the rash, I always say, we got to check your liver, we got to check your pancreas, we got to check your kidneys. Because sometimes there could be an issue either with elevated bile salts or something else. So pancreatic cancer, has affected a lot of people we know. Aretha Franklin, Michael Landon, Alex Trebek, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Alan Rickman from Die Hard and Harry Potter, Luciano Pavarotti, Patrick Swayze, Charlotte Rae, Siegfried from Siegfried and Roy, Harry Reid, I believe also. So, we need to keep an eye on things. We need to kind of be, shall we say, proactive. But AI, because people are like, okay, so wait a second. So how is AI going to help, or is AI, going to replace us? What are they doing? How is AI learning? Well, we feed it data. AI isn't, we're just going to pull this out of our retroperitoneum and figure it out ourselves. AI needs data to learn from. And so the reason why we're starting to hear about mammograms, let's say AI and mammograms, well, gosh, AI is picking it up. Why? Well, it's very easy to do. You basically, if somebody had breast cancer and they had previous mammograms, you feed the AI the mammograms, and then they're able to be Monday morning quarterback. This Monday morning quarterback is something that AI has a strong affinity for. And if they could say, because that's what we did as humans. When somebody had breast cancer, we were like, let's look up the old mammograms. And we would look back going, oh, there we go. There we go. So we're able to Monday morning quarterback, but we can't go back in time, back to 2018 or back to 2020 and say, this is where your breast cancer started. So what we want is we want a machine that could pick it up better. And they're the ones that are the Monday morning quarterback. And so it's very doable, and I do think it's necessary. I hate to see doctors lose jobs, but in radiology especially, there are so many applications. And if it is able to pick up, nuances, it's extremely important. I have a family history of breast cancer. Thank God I don't have the BRCA gene mutation. But, now my doctor, the radiologist, suggested that I get an MRI of the breasts. They don't want to wait till it shows up on a mammogram because they think it'll be a higher stage. And so, and it's expensive. My insurance is not covering it. It's expensive to do that. But because of my family history, I want to do it. I think with my deductible, it's still not, they're barely covering it. I think I still have to pay at least $500 out of pocket. But you know what? I want to be proactive. And so this is where AI could be very helpful, where they could say, look, we've learned that years down the line, this could be an issue. And I think we see it now. So we'll see what happens. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I lost a colleague to multiple myeloma, a rare and difficult to diagnose blood cancer. A lot of times produces no symptoms in the early stages, and we don't find out about it until it's spread and become more severe. The complex blood cancer disproportionately affects those of African descent, who are twice as likely to be diagnosed with disease, and Black patients are also twice as likely to die from multiple myeloma due to delayed detection and access to care. I am so grateful for Dr. Brandon Blue, assistant member and clinical instructor at the Department of Malignant Hematology at Moffitt Cancer Center, and Tony, who is a multiple myeloma survivor and a Carvicti patient. Dr. Blue, Tony, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this, being able to talk to us about this.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Multiple myeloma. Not easy. Talk to us about what this is and how CAR T therapy works.
Yeah, great question. So I'm Dr. Blue. I am a myeloma expert. I've been working with Johnson & Johnson and Legend Biotech really to discuss my experiences as it comes to treating patients with relapsed refractory multiple myeloma. But as you said, the first question is, well, what is multiple myeloma? And so I want all your listeners and everyone to know that multiple myeloma is a cancer. Okay, it's a cancer actually of the bone marrow space. And you say, well, what is the bone marrow and what does it do? Well, the bone marrow is actually inside of our long bones. We have this marrow space that is responsible for making blood cells. Well, unfortunately, you can actually develop a cancer inside of that marrow, and multiple myeloma is one of those cancers of the bone marrow. Well, for a period of time, the treatment for multiple myeloma was very limited. And so we're excited to just kind of talk about this novel treatment, such as CAR T-cell therapy, where we're able to basically take the body's immune system and now be able to fight off the cancer. And CARVYKTI is one of the options when it comes to multiple myeloma to actually use CAR T and make things better potentially for patients.
Exactly. And a lot of patients need to be their own advocates. They need to actually, sometimes bring this up and talk to their medical provider. And oftentimes the patient diagnoses and understands and alerts the medical provider that they're having a problem. So talk to us about how patients can be better advocates for their care.
Yeah, I think by just listening to this show, by listening to this conversation, I think people can actually gain awareness from that, but also have this kind of conversation. So it's one thing to hear about this conversation today, but then also put it into practice. The next time you see your doctor, if you or even your loved one has multiple myeloma, say, hey, I heard about this thing. Is CARVYKTI the right thing for me? I'd also would recommend for people to maybe visit the website, CARVYKTI.com. CARVYKTI.com, and just say, hey, let me read a little bit more about this. Let me interest myself and kind of see, is this something that I can benefit from? So I would say this starts as a discussion. The patient and the doctor need to both get together and find the right fit.
One thing I tell my medical students is they need to ask for rotations where they're working with a more diverse population. I can't tell you how many times many of us don't train, and we train with more one demographic or another, and then we lose out on identifying and earlier diagnosis, especially in diverse and minority communities. Talk to us about some of those barriers.
Yeah, so unfortunately, multiple myeloma disproportionately affects people of African descent as well as the Hispanic community. So what your medical students or people who might read some of the medical textbooks, they may see someone who is of African ancestry or the Hispanic community, and they don't look like the guys in the medical textbooks. They're much younger, and they may have more advanced disease. So this is important for people to understand. Just because this disease is something that we're trying to understand. Is it a biology issue? Is it a nature issue? Or is this a nurture issue, a product of the environment? We're still trying to figure that out to some degree, but we do know it is disproportionately affecting those communities. And so I do think that you made a great point, and I hope you continue to educate and let our next wave of future oncologists and doctors know about this issue.
Mm-hmm. Tony, you've lived through this, and not easy. Talk to us about your experience.
Yes. When I was first diagnosed with multiple myeloma on September 18th of 2013, I was 39 years old, and my life changed overnight. At that point, I couldn't walk. I couldn't work. I was bedridden, and I had to file for disability. And what made it even harder is that the signs had been there for years. I first noticed blood spots under my tongue back in 2005. Then on September 27th of 2013, I had an unfortunate fall after losing my footing while working with a client. After an ER visit, a follow-up with a neurologist who ordered an MRI, which revealed the multiple fractures and a serious back injury, I ended up back in the ER again and was close to being discharged without answers. It wasn't until someone close to me stepped in and advocated for additional testing that I finally got the answers and the clarity that I needed. And by then, the disease had progressed significantly. I had multiple spinal fractures, kidney failure, and anemia. I was even told I might never return to the fitness industry again, which was devastating. For almost 12 years, I went through multiple treatments, including chemotherapy and a stem cell transplant in 2016, but I relapsed. In May of 2025, I received Carvicti, and that was the turning point for me. The idea of a single infusion with the potential for it really stood out. Since then, I've been doing well, active in my personal life, and continuing my work in the multiple myeloma community. My journey has been about resilience, but also about learning how to advocate for myself every step of the way.
Absolutely. You're so positive too, and you've patients may relapse. What do you tell people, as it pertains to this ebbing and flowing and the progress you're making and what happens with relapses? What's your message to them?
Yes, my message to them would be, a relapse can feel discouraging. I've been there. I've been there multiple times, but it's not the end of the road. There are more options today than ever before. The new treatments continue to evolve. My message is simple. Don't lose hope. Stay encouraged in your care. Have honest conversations with your doctor and keep advocating for yourself.
Amen.
Every step forward matters, and there is still so much possibility ahead.
Every patient who told me that their doctor didn't listen and they have something deeper wrong, I found what they were talking about. They weren't lying. And if you have a doctor that won't, that won't listen, I mean, you stay the course. And I'm so glad, Tony, you got the care you needed. In the last minute or so, Dr. Blue, Tony, anything else you would like to share with my listeners?
I think the biggest thing that I really want your listeners to kind of take home is that I want them to be not only listeners of this conversation, but doers of this conversation. So to take all this information in and to really have conversations with their loved ones and say, hey, you may have multiple myeloma or you have a family member with multiple myeloma. I heard about this thing called CAR T-cell. I heard about this thing called Carvicti. Let's try to see if this is the right thing for you.
Absolutely.
I also want the listeners to try to go to the website. So those would be my big things.
Great. And the website again?
It's Carvicti.com, CARVYKTI.com.
Dr. Blue, Tony, God bless you both. Thank you for coming on. We can't wait to have you back.
Thank you. Happy to come back anytime.
All right, guys, don't go away. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by Financial Fitness Show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.